Thanks for joining us, my friend, on our journey through the Bible. Um, it's Tim, just glad to be here today. Our reading for today was in Isaiah chapter 43 to chapter 46. Uh, sometimes for some of us, I guess I would say, it might be discouraging to think about how God has used people like Jonathan Edwards or Charles Spurgeon or George Mueller. Um, we think to ourselves, okay, obviously God could use great men like them. But what about the rest of us? You ever wonder if God can use you? I hear people talk about God using them, when they graduate or they know more, they get out of debt, when the kids are older, when they retire. But the truth is, God can use anyone, including you, starting where you are today. In fact, God can even use people who don't even believe in Him. Do you know that? We can't limit God. So I'd like everyone to understand the process that He may use in your life with the story that comes out of our reading of a man you would never expect to be used that way. In high school, he was probably voted least likely to be used by God. I can't even say for sure he was a believer. It's the story that we find in chapter 45 of Isaiah of a man named King Cyrus. And his story gives us some understanding of how God may use you. With most of us, God waits until we yield to him. In this case, God just took control. And our text shows us part of the process here in Isaiah chapter 45. The first three verses say, Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have opened to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give thee the treasures of darkness, and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, the Lord, which call thee by thy name, am the God of Israel. We see how God is leading this man. In fact, that's even part of his plan long before he was born. He said, I will go before thee, I'll make the crooked places straight. While Isaiah was warning about judgment, God was already making plans for rebuilding that would follow this time of judgment in Babylon. It actually begins in the final verse of chapter 44, where God says, Thus saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, Thou shalt be built into the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. Well, what do we know about Cyrus? What Isaiah was writing was actually written more than 200 years before he was even born. He was a Mede as an infant. He was an outcast and left exposed, and he was finally saved from death by a shepherd's wife. But he became king of Persia in 559 BC, and he conquered Babylon in 539 BC. You can read about it in Daniel chapter 5. He encouraged the Jews to return to Israel and ordered the rebuilding of the temple. So God had a job for Cyrus to do, the conquest of Babylon. And God would participate in that process by making the crooked way straight, clearing the path for him, like a fullback opening a hole in the line so that the halfback can run through. He said, I'll break in pieces the gates of bronze. The city of Babylon had 100 gates. There are 25 on each side of the city. And several historians have noted that they actually were made of bronze. Now, Cyrus may not have been a believer, but we do know he was used by God. And what Isaiah writes about actually came to pass. It happened. He conquered Babylon. Then he restored Jerusalem and the temple. And whether he realized it or not, all three of those things were part of a plan that God had for him even before he was born. Does it shock you to think that God has some sort of a plan for you? He does. And it may not include overthrowing nations, but there is a unique place in his kingdom that can only be filled by you. If God would clear the way for an unbelieving king, how much more would he go before his own children? I honestly don't know if I'll see Cyrus in heaven or not. I hope I do. But I do know that God had plans for him before he was born, just like you. When you follow God's leading, my friend, allow God to provide what you need. God said he would make provisions for King Cyrus, and he did. A while ago, I acquired a violin by mistake. I just saw this on eBay and got curious about it. Next thing I know, there was a violin on the way to my house, and it's just sitting there. And in that violin, there is music that will never be heard unless I play it. Same is true for you, my friend. There's music in you that no one will hear until you allow God to begin to use you. Would you think about that today? Meditate on it and stay in the Word. Our reading for tomorrow is in Isaiah chapter 47 to 51. Be reading there, and I'll look forward to being back with you again real soon. Have a great day, folks.